Adam sandwich right here, 2 atoms on the end. All right, so very excited. We get to be the creative constituent today, and we get to just show great work and look great by being adjacent to it. So it works out well for us. So we have Adam Chapman. Well, actually, let me have you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll go into presenting the creative work.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Adam Chapman. I'm the Director of Creative Technology at DOOH, which means I have a foot in strategy and planning and engineering and creative, and I sort of straddle all those things.
And I'm Gabe Garner. I'm Senior Vice President, Director of Creative Tech. Oh, that's yours.
That's me.
Yeah.
Wow. We have the same title. That's good.
Yeah, it's catchy. Senior Vice President of Digital Development at Firstborn. I kind of just do a lot in sort of a leadership position, but I have kind of a technical background, and I'm also involved in a lot of like strategy and creative meetings.
Right, and I'm Adam Breutman. I have equally as amorphous a position doing everything from strategy, creative, etc., and it's a lot of fun. So with that, Adam, do you want to take us into some of your examples of
Sure, that's great. I get to start.
Creative digital at home?
Are we ready, Sergey?
Here, you want to...
So, do I get a timer? Oh, no, I don't need that. No. I'm going off the cuff. Not totally off the cuff. So, just as a show of hands, how many of you come from a billboard, sort of outdoor poster background? Okay. And how many of you have done digital projects in the last 2 years? Wow, that's great. And how many of those have been interactive? Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. So hopefully I'll be talking about some of your work. So one of the things that I really admire about the projects that I'm going to be showing is that they're so clearly a combination of work between the engineering department, the creative department, the account department, the media department, and then convincing the clients to actually pay for everything, which is, in my experience, the most difficult task of any of these things. So here we're going to start off with the IBM little just in place billboards that react to you color-wise, and this is work that comes out of Ogilvy, and it's really simple, really clean. Just we'll get to them here. This is what a mall looks like. That's what a computer looks like. So they're super simple. They're just in the mall. I think this is up by Lincoln Center, and the billboard just simply reacts to you. Just puts your color of what you're wearing onto the billboard. Very simple. So the biggest problem that we tend to have with interactive display is the same we have with interactive anything, and that's the issues of agency and affordance, which are 2 game design terms that you guys may or may not be familiar with. So affordance means it looks like you can interact with it, and agency means you can see yourself having an effect on the system. So when we start to look at billboards then, that becomes a crazy problem. So if we go to the next video. So thinking about just that from a computer screen standpoint, we have a mouse, we can see the mouse move, that's great. But what does that look like then when you put it in Times Square? How do you create an interactive system that works well in Times Square, and what's the effect of it? So Forever 21 did this, I think, last year. And it's fantastic. It's super simple from the technology point of view. You just have a camera mounted on this giant billboard. People can see themselves. And then there's green screen shot model comes in over the top, takes a photo of you. Hey, white. And then she gives this exasperated look. Oh, the effort.
So hard being hot.
It is so hard being hot. And there you go. There's you on top of you. So it's essentially a giant mirror, and yet look at all of these people. They're standing around. They're super engaged. They're staring at a billboard that, we've all been to Times Square. It's a little overwhelming, and yet they're surrounded by dozens and dozens of billboards, and you have this giant crowd in the middle that are all staring at just this one, and it's because they have some sort of agency there. it marvels me. It's so simple. And a lot of these technologies, like even the IBM, it's essentially a mirror, right? It's an abstracted mirror. You're taking yourself out of it. So, oh, look, there, she picks someone up, shakes them. Aw, a little bit of love. Okay, we can go to the next one. I'm just gonna breeze through these. Dun, dun, dun. So all of these are sort of ramping up in the amount of agency that you have with their interaction. Maybe we're going to the next one. All right. So this is then work by this fellow, Paul Notzold, who has a company called Textual Healing. And this is really, really simple interaction. It's a projector, it's a phone, it's a computer, and you just SMS, and it's projected onto the sides of buildings. He's done it with the Obama campaign, I can't remember who this group is with, but there's a bunch of actors that are standing in the windows, and he's done it for a lot of people. I highly encourage giving him a call, working with him, because he's super easy to work with, and it's incredibly fun. But people now they don't have to download anything new. They all have the phones in their pocket already. Everyone's used to texting, and yet you have incredibly high agency. You text your message to this number, and all of a sudden you see it displayed. You get people trash talking each other. You get, depending on how the prompts are, you get them engaging with the brand, engaging with the idea. He has a great video where it's at, what was that museum show called with all of the dead bodies that are framed? Bodies, there you go. Yeah, cryptic. And it's a skeleton, and the skeleton dances around, and you text it messages, and people go through the exhibit, and they come out, and they engage with this projection. So it's eliciting an engagement. It's a very easy engagement to elicit. No one has to download anything. The satisfaction is immediate. The agency is immediate, and you get people standing around for forever. La, 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 la. Okay, we can go to the next one. We have quick overviews. And all of these, I should add, are, I think, are really excellent examples that actually fulfill on their promise. But it's pretty tricky. Like, these are the successes. For every one success, there's 40 dozen videos that you look at that are like, oh, I can see how that sounded good in the original concept. And it clearly falls flat. There's no agency. So this is going in a totally different direction, where it's taking the Nike Fit data, and this is a project that Yes Yes No did, and they took the Nike Fit data, and then they just did visualizations of data that people already had, that people were already inputting. So this is an in-store example of people's actual run routes. And it's just a beautiful visualization, and you can go and you can select what your profile is, and it does a visualization of where you ran. And it's just so beautifully executed. It's so elegant, and it can be yours, it can be someone else's, and you look at it and it's nice. And Yes Yes No is great. They're also fun to work with. I love talking about other people's work because I don't have to talk about all of the headaches that went into actually getting any of these things accomplished. So I think I have one more, and then I'm going to pass it. So, and this is one of my favorites. So this is the exact inverse of digital out of home. So, and this was a couple of years ago, but Google just, when Google Video was still around, just put up these hollow billboards at random places, well, probably not random, but places around the world, and that's all they were. And you have all of these people taking photos of their friends in these frames, but they're taking the photos with digital cameras, which they're then probably uploading digitally, sharing. Some of them are probably taking videos of the digital video frame and then re-encoding it in the digital video frame and then sharing it. And I like how, I just love how simple it is for the execution and how sort of meta and fun it is.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the search field is really cool because it's like in the train station, like people eating fast food, that's brilliant. That's awesome.
Yeah, this was on my short list as well of an example of how digital out of home doesn't need to be digital in terms of the out of home piece.
Right.
The digital is actually in the handset, so this is one of those where it's kind of on the line. Is it digital out of home? Which it most certainly is. And it's a really elegant solution.
Yeah, and one of the points that keeps getting made is digital out of home is now just digital. It's basically everything except for you sitting at the computer. But digital is everywhere. It is everything. All right, that's me. I love taking credit for other people's work. This is great.
Yeah, it's much easier. It's way easier. It's all you don't have all the you don't have the warts or the morning breath or anything like that. You just have just have this cool stuff that we made. It killed me. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think do we have sound? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and play mine with sound, just because I kind of planned on it. Why don't we go ahead and queue up the first one? The YouTube link. Do you have that? Yeah, the YouTube link. I don't know if this one's making a lot of rounds around the awards right now. It's super cool. It was done by JC Decode. Has everyone seen the train thing that they did? Well, we'll play it, and hopefully you haven't, so it makes my talk more relevant. Here it is. Yeah. Do we have sound on that?
Then get around using Berlin's underground rail network. All of these people are guaranteed to have one thing at all times: their car key. Working with engineers and computing experts, we developed a system that recognizes and reacts to the signal given off by remote car keys. Thanks to this technology, passers-by can control digital billboards with their own keys for the first time. The system simply needs to be connected to the content projectors in the underground stations. Berlin's famous underground station Friedrichstrasse played host to a special interactive digital outdoor event presented by Mercedes-Benz, Key to Viano. On 12 digital billboards, passers-by were invited to open up the Viano using their own key. The key from their car was thereby transformed into a virtual key for the Viano. Every time the door opened, surprising passengers exited the vehicle, demonstrating its incredible capacity. Some members of the public were lucky enough to catch the Viano when it was empty, as well as seeing just how much space it offers for friends, family, and shopping. Each winner was invited by our driver to take an exclusive VIP trip. They were now able to experience the Viano for real.
Anyway, yeah, I thought that was brilliant. I mean, I just thought that was a really cool take on that. I mean, one of the things that we're constantly sort of considering now, and when we have talks about digital out of home, is the sort of reliance on the devices that we have, that we know people have. And you're in a lot of meetings where you're kind of making the argument for everyone has a smartphone, and then you have your client maybe pushing back on that. Well, what kind of smartphone do they have, or do they have this particular ability, or you're always kind of trying to keep tabs on that. And while we're in this sort of race to figure out what the latest technology that someone has is, it's like these guys just kind of came up with this really simple observation to say, well, everyone's got other devices other than things like cell phones or smartphones. They've got these car keys that they're handing around with, and if we're talking about commuters, then chances are they probably all have driven to this train station and are now taking the train into work. It was just, to me, it was like just a really brilliant way to key into that sort of technical insight to say, like, okay, well, obviously they have a piece of technology that's doing something. How can we be clever about that thing? Like, how can we kind of almost hijack that and create that sort of unexpected, piece out of that unexpected reaction out of that just simple technical device. So, I mean, I just thought it was brilliant just because, the title was something. I wish I'd thought of that. I totally wish I'd thought of that. I thought it was really cool. I mean, it kind of comes down to this sort of idea of interactivity in general. That when I was at a panel or at a conference, probably over 10 years ago, where Yugo Nakamura was speaking. Does everyone know who Yugo Nakamura is? By any chance, he's like really brilliant interactive designer, Japanese guy. He's kind of one of the pioneers of Flash. But in this talk once, he was giving this talk about interactivity in general, and he had this fantastic analogy for what he considers interactive. And it was actually a big field that's in New Mexico. I can't remember the name of the artist right now, but it's this artist that built this, did this field in New Mexico in the, I believe it was in the 70s. And it's basically just a field of poles. They're copper poles in this big field in New Mexico. And he basically said, this is actually my favorite piece of interactive art. Because what actually happens is this field in New Mexico is actually known for its tremendous thunder and lightning storms. And it's about 500 poles out in this area. And by itself, it's a pretty boring, almost industrial thing to see. But when one of these storms comes through, the whole area lights up with just this beautiful electricity that actually comes to the air. And he said, that's interactivity. He said, that's what interactivity is. It's actually creating, it's sort of like creating a relationship between two things and surfacing that relationship and making that relationship really dynamic in a really cool way. And I think that that's one of the things that we always have an opportunity to do with digital out of home is that we can kind of capture that, you know, on a website. We can create unexpected experiences in some other sort of digital medium, but nothing really can really hit you as hard as something that you actually come into this physical space, and something that really you can react to and creates this completely unexpected experience. So, anyway, that's just kind of my general gist of waxing philosophically about that. So why don't we go on to the next piece that I have, and that's got audio too, and I'm going to cheat on that one and play the audio as well.
I have audio. It's not cheating.
It's not cheating, okay.
No, it's perfectly fine.
The car key point, I think, is really key, though, because it's always the question of how do we lower the barrier to entry, lower the barrier to interaction, make it as easy as possible.
Totally.
Yeah, that's such a good job.
So this
Stole
actually,
my doodler.
was it too? Okay, so we should have talked before this too.
We didn't talk beforehand, so apparently we all had similar things.
This isn't advertising, and I'm okay with talking over this actually while we do. This is in Manchester, England. This was done by a group called Love, great name. This was just a shop window that they did in Manchester, and really all it was, this actually does obviously take advantage of smartphones, but really all it was the reason I put this in here that I thought was so cool is frequently we're sort of met with this challenge with any sort of digital out-of-home thing where that's cool, but how can we really bring that experience, how can we give them sort of an app-like experience without making them download an app, because it's obviously a lot of work. So in this case, these guys did that. They actually made this sort of piece where you can just draw on your smartphone, and it'll actually just kind of leave these images in the shop window for you. Very small scale, like I said, it's not advertising. It wasn't like a big campaign or anything. It was just a really simple, smart use of technology that just is really obviously engaging and cool. It helps that it's probably in a trendy, hip place of Manchester with a bunch of inebriated, young, hot people walking by wanting to be clever. But it totally works. I mean, it's a great use of this kind of technology. So I just added that in there because I just thought it was really brilliantly done. Go ahead.
Oh, they do have to download an app, but the interaction becomes so compelling and so immediate that it's incredibly quick.
I don't think they didn't have to download an app for this though. For an app, it was actually, I think it was all HTML. Well, that was what was one of the things that was so cool.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's actually, and the other point I wanted to make about this, best use of a QR code I've ever seen. I don't know if there's been a lot of QR code bashing at this yet.
One of the few good ones.
Yeah. Like, you make the joke about the QR code in the subway train. That's always just kind of an oxymoron. But, I mean, that was basically you have a QR code, you load that up, and boom, I'm engaging with this piece right now. It's actually a brilliant use of a QR code. It's the best reason to have one right there is I can actually start engaging with this right away. So I thought, I just love that use of technology. I just thought that was really clever and smart. And I guess we'll go ahead and go to the next one. So this was actually in Turkey. This was a company, an unfortunately named creative agency called C-Section. I was imagining the brainstorming for the agency name on that one. I don't know what they crossed off the list before they came up with that. But, this was great. I mean, the only thing I'd say is it's on Valentine's Day, so it's a little kind of like, yeah, come on, guys. It's a little corny for that reason. I don't care. I think this was absolutely fucking brilliant because basically it's barely even digital. They didn't use, they don't have some fantastic motion tracking software. They have a video camera set up looking at people and a guy sitting there pushing a button. That's how high tech this is, but it's absolutely brilliant. Just because all it is it's, show us that you're a couple and we'll give you a free Coke. That's it. So the call to action here is show that you love somebody, which I wish we got that brief. You know, like it's just like, it's an awesome, like we can get a little bit cynical about this industry and about the things we do and, you know, trying to get someone to buy sugar water or whatever it is you're trying to do. But in this case, like just basically like, I'm a sap. I love this campaign, or this piece. I just think it's absolutely brilliant because basically just, you know, guy on a camera, hey, kiss the girl, we'll give you a couple Cokes. How's that? You know, Jesus. The opportunity to be able to do something like that I think is absolutely fantastic. And you can see the result is just this feel-good piece. You look at how cute they are. See how cute they are?
My favorite is that first couple who look at it in disbelief. Like, I don't believe that just happens.
Yeah.
Like, that's a magic moment, right?
Exactly, yeah. And you kind of sit there and they're wondering, how did it know that? What did it do? You know, how, because you're just with this inanimate object, you know, and it's like being able to rate your affection. So it's one of those little magic moments that, you know, Coke has been doing with their vending machines lately. But anyway, that was kind of I just thought that was a really, really brilliant campaign. And that's it. Those are my 3.
Great. Well, it's a good thing I included a bunch of them, so I don't have any overlap here. And mine will come up. Mine was the keynote. And I'm actually going to start with an initiative that, not so simple, a higher barrier to entry in terms of getting, let me just skip past all this proverbial nonsense here. That's actually before I lost my hair. Sorry, I forgot that I didn't take this out. So, of course, we've all been talking about what is digital out of home, really. Is it something that's in our minds and on our handsets? Is it something that is in the billboard? So I wanted to take everyone through a couple of examples of each. This first one being an example of augmented reality meets gaming meets out of home. So take a look at this one. I really like this one. And this one has sound.
The briefing. To make Fox Crime the meeting point of the best investigation and crime series, together with innovation and new technologies. The idea. This is innovation in media. It's not a canvas, it's much more. It's giving life to the canvas through a mechanism inside and develop a program for the iPhone that can be used for the target in real time. This is innovation in outdoor. For the first time in the world, a shooting salon on the street was created. This is innovation in interactive. No one had developed an app that could interact in real-time recognition of dynamic elements to a canvas and, associated with Twitter, become the world's largest game. Its promotion. We not only launched the series, we also conducted a shooting contest between all the fans with amazing results. It's PR. Innovation is news for the media sector and for all media, and such an action could not be ignored. It's integrated. The action combines many fields of communication for the success of the action. The results. Blue Bloods reached more than 200,000 spectators, making it the biggest opening of the year and leading Fox to lead the ranking of audiences.
So I don't really know if that execution led to it being the biggest launch or whatever metric they gave. You know, I think one of the points that the voiceover said was that innovation is news, and I think one of the pieces of value they got from this was, in fact, PR, because it was really cool. We have built things like this, and I know that the interaction rate tends to be somewhat low, but the halo effect is really what drives it. And I think some of these executions, you have to expect that. And that's one of them that I'm not sure what the interaction rate was, but I still think it's really cool, and it served its purpose in terms of PR. That was actually in Spain, which some people may not have actually seen it, but this is another example using augmented reality. We've certainly seen a lot of terrible examples of augmented reality out there. How many people have seen really bad augmented reality in the audience? And the people who didn't raise their hand have not seen augmented reality, I'm assuming. Say again? Oh, there's great ones. Yeah. No, I mean, there's just a lot of I don't want to say misuse, but gratuitous use of augmented reality. But this one actually takes place in a mall, as you'll see, and it's very natural, and it's just a lot of fun, and it doesn't require anything, any agency from the user other than being there and interacting. So take a look at this one. Again, you just see people smiling and people in awe of what you're all about to see. Who wouldn't stop if there was a tiger in the mall? Now, they're of course looking at a screen. I think people sometimes forget about the fact that I'm sure everybody knows that those clouds aren't there, but they're looking at a screen. They give a shot of it, but the YouTube video for this has many, many views as well because they very cleverly don't give too many shots of what the real experience is. You're standing there looking at a screen, seeing yourself with all of this, but just a lot of fun and very simple, very contextually relevant for the brand, and just a nice execution there. You see what it actually looks like, but still a very fun initiative. So take a departure from that for a minute. This is a couple of years ago. I just wanted to break from the high technology for a minute and roll a 30-second clip here of something completely different, and I love this. You've seen, yeah, this is a bunch of years ago, but I had
sneezing
to.
transit shelter ad. Pressing a button activated a harmless spritz of water in one of several possible voiceovers.
That too! Did you know that a sneeze could travel 12 feet and hover for 3 hours? It's true and gross. But hey, you've learned something. Science World, we can explain. That too! That too! That too! Did you know that a sneeze could travel 12 feet and hover for 3 hours? I bet you're fascinated as you wipe my snot off your face.
So
Science
again,
World, we can explain.
So again, really relevant, really high impact. I can't imagine that anyone walked away from that either wanting to go to Science World or really not wanting to go to Science World, but digital out-of-home, nonetheless, very effective.
They definitely remembered the billboard that sneezed on them.
Absolutely, and that was actually 2007, which is right, shortly after Twitter came out. I think if something like that existed now, the social effect would be great as well, and the pass-along effect. So here's something that Gabe's old shop, old stomping grounds,
Yeah,
did.
I used to work at this place.
Sarkisian Mason. Again, very simple, very elegant execution, but they did something that I'm personally very interested in right now, is the fusion of gesture-based technologies, Connect, and the use of Arduino microcontrollers. They're very small microcontrollers that have multiple ins and outs, and they can be used for, it's open source, and they can be used for a lot of creative things. So here you'll see the combination or the fusing of the physical and the digital, and it's very simple, but a very elegant execution. For those of you that know this brand, they really hit the essence of the brand right on the nose. People get the idea, and what I really like about this example is, when we're coming up with creative ideas, we often talk about lateral thought and the use of either technology or ideas in ways that you wouldn't necessarily think to use them, right? So we know what the Kinect controller was originally intended to do. It was originally intended to play games. It wasn't necessarily intended to rig up with motors and create a display that moves grass around, right? So that's the reason that I wanted to show this, is that kind of lateral thought and using technology in new and exciting ways, and ways that that technology wasn't necessarily intended for. Now, the final thing I have here is something that I'm sure many of you have seen. How many people have seen 3D projection mapping? So most of you, I figured this would be a good way to to end things. Many of you have seen it. This is actually a very creative execution, the way that they actually use the contours of the building. There are many of these out there. It's actually growing in popularity, but I really like the execution here. So take a look at this. This is Mattel.
Welcome to the Hot Wheels Secret Race Battle. It's time to introduce the racing cars.
Thank you, Green Skull. Let's take a look at our racers and competitors for today. Roger Dodger in the first position, followed by Rat Bomb. Rat Bomb, last year's Rookie of the Year. But don't forget Twin Mill, the champion from 2 years ago. Followed by, last but not least, Howlin' Heat. Customs House, get ready. The roar of the engines, the countdown, and they're off. Windmill off to an early lead. Roger Dodger in second place. A lot of debris on the track. Watch out for that rubble! Now a huge hole in the track! Oh no! Howlin' Heat has crashed out! Cindy Customs House is on fire! As the sprinklers fill the track up with water, the race continues. Major challenge for the racers as they are slowed down by the water. And Twin Mill is still in the lead.
I love this because it fulfills that or extends that experience I had of it. tiny child seeing those Saturday morning commercials with how cool the Hot Wheels tracks are, and then you go and you spend $40 and you get it home and you're like, it always crashes. It never quite works.
And the race continues.
So I think we get the idea, though. I wanted to run it until we got to that water portion, but a really great use of public space, no interaction at all, but again, raising it to a larger-than-life experience. And you can imagine that every child who saw this ran home and certainly asked for one of these because they thought it would be like this, although when they do get it home, it's kind of small.
Welcome to disappointment, kid.
Great. So I think we have about 10 minutes or so. I think we got through a lot of great stuff here. We want to open it up to questions about these executions. We didn't work on them, so we don't necessarily have as many insights as you might like, but we might be able to offer some insight into how these were created, because we all sit on strategy and technology to some extent. So questions?
Well, I have one, actually. It's more of a question about an observation that Adam Chapman made about this notion that this concept of agenting keeps dialing up. And it seems to me like the critical app you've discovered here is narcissism, that people like being, they like seeing themselves.
Yeah, you know, when, so I started doing computer vision video tracking installations way before the Kinect, and the Kinect it's fantastic in so many ways, not the least of which being that it's done a third of my job already, which is clients now already know what computer vision and video tracking installations are, thanks to Microsoft and Kinect and their advertising budget, which eases the process significantly. I think we can all agree on that. But when we first started doing it, you know, we would embed a camera in a wall or something. And the first thing that everyone did once they figured out the camera was they would walk up to the camera and they would go, like without a doubt. And everyone I know who's bought a video camera, like when you used to have a video camera when it wasn't built into your phone, the first thing that they would do is they would turn it on and then they would shine it in their mouth. I think it's totally natural to want to see yourself and have that. Agency trumps all else. You know, I did a project at a children's museum years ago, and it was great. And you know, kids played with it, parents played with it. It was fantastic, and grandparents played with it, and kids brought their parents back. But then right next to my crazy dual-screen, high-tech interactive video installation was a panel that was just all flip switches and lights, and there were just as many kids there, like flipping the switches, looking at the lights. And it was all about agency. Like, you do something, you can see the effect, and it's immediate.
Yeah, I think it's not just narcissism, it's creating that environment or state of play where you don't really know exactly what it's supposed to do. As you said, you know that you're supposed to be an agent in the experience, but you don't know exactly what you're supposed to do. So you see with a lot of these executions, people just playing and discovering it. And the three of us happen to be very fortunate in terms of the jobs we have, because I don't want to speak for all three of us, but we get to play with a lot of these things and then bring them to our clients and say, look at that, and try and get them to spend money on it.
So no colonoscopies. Okay.
Not yet.
So this is a
It's
question
still
for all,
emerging.
this is a question for all of you, because it kind of relates to the panel we had before, which is this notion that we keep dialing up expectations of what you can do with media, and this stuff's amazing. Thank you for pulling it together and curating it. But it must be incredible pressure for creative people to think of new ideas. I mean, in the old days, you just had a blank page and a blank canvas. Now you can create anything, and where do you start? I mean,
I'll go ahead.
I mean, it can be. I mean, it also, you know, the best ideas are always those simple ones, though, you know? Like, I mean, that's always kind of the catch. It's like, you got to be real careful, you know, don't get attracted by the bright, shiny thing too much. Don't overthink stuff, because, I mean, I've seen things, you know, obviously we didn't have a panel on the things that fail. You know, that wouldn't be as much
next
fun.
year.
That would be awesome.
But I'm sure that, you know, but they're there too, man. You know, and those are the things where it's like, you know, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. The reason that things still work is because they're simple, you know. And so a lot of times, as long as you can kind of get back to a simple way to represent, you know, which isn't an easy thing to do. I'm not claiming that it's easy. Simplest things are always the hardest to come up with. But, you know, I mean, I just, in the wave of the ability to do so many things so often, you don't necessarily want to look at it that way. You want to look at it as, you know, what's the easiest thing I can do that's going to get the most interesting result.
Yeah, the way we often start is what's the